Zack Snyder's tenure at the helm of affairs in the DCU was largely met with polarized views, but one idea was too far-fetched for loyal DC fans. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Zack Snyder served as the architect of the DCU, starting his grand tale almost a decade before James Gunn and Peter Safran were eventually brought in to helm a reboot of the franchise. While Snyder never got to realize his full vision for the shared universe, he has shared several interesting tidbits and plot points from planned installments over the years. While Snyder's take on Batman was already controversial, the director had plans for an even more controversial and borderline creepy plot point for the character. In his vision for the DCU, Snyder wanted to give Batman an uncanny romance with a significant other of one of his closest allies. Here is what Snyder had planned for Ben Affleck's Batman and why the idea was too crazy. Zack Snyder introduced Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne/Batman in 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The film received mostly polarizing reviews from critics and fans, particularly for its deviation from the source material. However, according to reports, Snyder had allegedly planned another deviation that DC fans might not have been able to handle. Snyder's original plan for the Justice League included a romantic subplot featuring Affleck's Batman and Amy Adams' Lois Lane. Following Superman's death at the end of Batman v Superman, Snyder planned to bring Bruce and Lois together romantically, leading to the birth of their son. In later installments, Superman would be revived while Batman died, leaving Lois to raise the son with Superman. However, Snyder's ideas for a love triangle between Superman, Batman, and Lois were not received well by the studio, who rejected such as a subplot. Consequently, there aren't any hints of a romantic relationship between Batman and Lois in Snyder's cut of Justice League, likely due to studio pushback. Given the nature of the comic book dynamic between Batman and Superman, and the latter's romance with Lois, a love triangle between the three would certainly have been an odd idea for the DCU. Thankfully, Warner Brothers intervened and saved fans from experiencing the bizarre subplot on screen. However, Snyder himself remained defensive of the idea. During an appearance on the Pizza Film School podcast, Snyder confirmed that he was planning a romantic subplot between Batman and Lois. He also explained the original plan for the said romance and stated, "I think in the original script, Lois and Batman got together briefly. And there was this whole other thing that everyone was like, 'Oh my God, you can't do that.'" Snyder's comments confirmed that he received pushback from the studio over his idea of a romance between Batman and Lois. However, Snyder defended the idea by revealing why he thought it would make for a compelling subplot. "And then I love the idea of setting up this sort of concept. It's sort of like in a movie where the husband goes off to war, and he's dead, and the wife moves on, and then the husband appears I'm not dead. I'm fine." As a result, Snyder's statement makes it evident that he was deeply interested in exploring the idea of a romance between Ben Affleck's Batman and Amy Adams' Lois Lane. However, his plans never came to fruition because of pushback from Warner Brothers, who most likely saved DC fans from witnessing one of the most bizarre romantic subplots of all time. 300 and Guy Batman Ritchie's v Superman for his manga career. Dawn of Justice and other DCU films are streaming. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. For someone like Tite Kubo, inspiration has always been omnipresent. Bleach takes the best and worst of the world, combining them into one epic masterpiece. From rock music to multiple films and television shows, the impact can be both sublime and active at the same time. One can absorb ideas without even realizing. That is the beauty of art. Kubo has always been open to the new and popular, indulging himself not just in the most hyped songs but also in movies. While there are many manga and anime that inspire mangakas throughout the world, for Kubo, the case was different. He found himself captivated by not just Zack Snyder's work but also Guy Ritchie's. Both of them became huge influences for Kubo later in life. During an interview, via Tumblr, Tite Kubo talked about all the different places he found inspiration in. From rock music to the thrill of different mangas such as Yu Yu Hakusho and Saint Seiya, the mangaka has always been open to new and fresh ideas. Amongst them all, Hollywood also had its contribution in impacting Kubo's work. In fact, it was Brad Pitt and Gerard Butler's films that played such a huge role in his works. Both those films have been loved and criticized by fans, but for Kubo, they stand as great inspirations. Despite their grand success, with Snatch making $83.5 million via Box Office Mojo and 300 making a whopping $456 million via Box Office Mojo, Both of the films had their own issues lined up. Snatch and 300 had a huge influence on me at the time they were screened. When asked about there being any movies that helped him through inspiration, his answer consisted of Zack Snyder's 300 and Guy Ritchie's Snatch. He stated that the films had a huge impact on him when they were released, influencing even his career as a mangaka. Based on the Battle of Thermopylae, 300 may be one of Zack Snyder's most successful films, but it has its fair share of issues. Filled with a streak of historical inaccuracies, it is more so a fictional piece of work than a historical retelling. Problem is you have Manhattan in a lot of shots, and he's just CG, you know? It's really amazing for me. The one super cool thing, I was telling Billy about it because he hadn't even seen it, he hasn't seen. I mean that shot of Manhattan walking through Vietnam, whatever, he's 30 feet tall, that's like a superhero thing. The thing to see, and the revelation to me, is him just talking and doing nothing. And just emoting in the subtlest way, which is something I haven't really seen from a CG character. That really, all he's doing is acting. He's not blowing stuff up or jumping off the walls or doing CG stuff. He's just being sad. Dr. Manhattan is one of those characters that benefit from a good character actor. We have seen the character with complete CGI, and also with practical effects, with the consensus being that the latter is an infinitely better way of bringing the character to life. However, this poses the additional challenge of adapting the subtle facial cues and such from the actor that could make or break a performance. One of the most seminal pieces of superhero fiction, penned by comics legend Alan Moore, Watchmen was one of the first radical deconstructions of the superhero genre, which ushered in a whole new era of what would come to become one of the go-to tropes for a lot of independence writers. It can be attested to that comics like Invincible, The Boys, and Irredeemable all owe a little something to Moore's masterpiece, without which they probably would not have been here today. Dr. Manhattan remains one of the most interesting characters to come out of the DC canon, a hero with godlike abilities that blurs the line between Captain Atom and Superman. Manhattan functions as a great question in the superhero world, speaking to the alienation that comes with the acquisition of immense power. Marvel may be about to undergo a huge direction change with the release of Thunderbolts. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Among the montage of actors present in the cast is also Geraldine Viswanathan, who will be playing the minor role of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine's assistant, a character set to be portrayed by the utterly talented Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Marvel's Thunderbolts will be released sometime in 2025 and is set to be one of the many films that'll push the overall franchise over to the next phase. Headlined by Sebastian Stan, the movie features a star-studded cast and will see the comeback of several characters, such as Red Guardian and Taskmaster. According to Viswanathan, the MCU is now finally set to take on a riskier, darker form, something Thunderbolts is set to play a major role in. The same has been confirmed by Geraldine Viswanathan in a recent interview. Marvel Studios has undoubtedly had a torrid time of late. A range of projects since Avengers Endgame have not managed to generate the kind of success the bosses would have hoped for. However, one other crucial aspect that has received regular criticism is the fact that movies tend to have a lighter, almost comedic tone, something which has already been said to have affected various narratives. The character arcs of Thor and Hulk come to mind, with Love and Thunder often being criticized for reducing the Norse god to a bit of a ridiculous figure. Regardless, the overall tone of the MCU has also come under scrutiny, with a milder, comedic approach often coming into question. That was also true with respect to Deadpool and Wolverine, which may have single-handedly led to a resurgence for the overall franchise. However, if anything,